Well, hello there. I'm going to go into a more serious subject today. I'm going to call it the second time around. See, oftentimes life is trying to tell us something. But while life is busy trying to tell us something, you're busy trying to ignore what life is really trying to tell you. I can't honestly tell you I know why we do things like this, but I can tell you, I can tell you, I was a master at ignoring. I ignored all the signs. I ignored all the evidence. But worst of all, I denied that I saw with my own two eyes what I saw. I denied the discomfort that I felt day to day, so that the discomfort became the bar of which I operated. Because as long as I wasn't bleeding, as long as the blood wasn't physically flowing, what I was feeling, the disconnect I was feeling, the anger I was feeling, the venom that was just a shout away from spewing, I told myself, I'm okay. Because, of course, my boundary says, oh, as long as he doesn't hit me, as long as he doesn't hit me, then, we're still good, because he didn't really hit me. Even though he bruised me every single day in his way of handling me, in his neglect, in his vicious attack, in his name calling, in his not taking responsibility for anything. In spite of all of that, I was able to live comfortably in my discomfort zone. How many of you could, relate to that? So we went our separate ways, and a year came and went. But time has a way of healing, right? But time also has a way of disguising the depths of pain that you were actually in. It's almost like childbirth. I didn't have any myself, but I've been told that childbirth is one of the worst pain that a woman could endure. And yet, as soon as the child is born, the dream and the joy is completely replaces the agony that you felt in that moment. So by the time another year came and went, and you're pregnant again, you have memory of the pain, but it's okay, because you've been there, done that, so you can handle it, right? Okay, so it's a similar sort of dynamic. So for me, after a year and some months, it was easier to have a conversation. It was now easier to listen to him. So when we finally got to that point of better understanding, guess what happened? I agreed that he should move back in so we could try again. Second time around, try again. Of course, I'm thinking the second time around means that he will be more sensitive, He would be more loving now that he knows what I like and don't like. Now that he understands my vocabulary, now that he understands what it was like living with me at first. So the second time around is going to bring me the joy I always wanted. Right? Now I want you to pay attention to this, huh? Because just as I said, that thing that allowed me to go back in to a space of dysfunction, I believe it was because even for that year, I was still attached to some imaginary outcome that he's going to walk through the door, he's going to come back all shiny and new and empathic and loving and kind and generous and forgiving, and could have a conversation without being triggered, without the ego, without the strong man, I'm in charge bullshit, all of that stuff that plagued the relationship the first time. Suddenly it vanished because I know he now understands me. At least that's where I am, right? That's where I am. And then we start to live together again. So you think all of that happened? Actually, the opposite happened. You know why? Because now he has used the lessons learned in the first go around to make sure he doesn't get caught the second time around. So it wasn't like the behavior shifted to accommodate this new effort at a relationship. It was, oh, I remember the scene. The first time I got caught and you had me on the call, right? But this time, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get the opportunity, because I have become so good at this game that there's no way in hell I'm going to be caught. So we continue living in a sort of easy, but not fully transparent. In other words, now there's lock on the phones. Now there is, oh, don't touch my mail. Now there is, why are you asking? Because I ask him, where are you going? Now there is, you don't need to know everything. Why do you want to know? And there's a level of secrecy that is now apparent for no apparent reason, right? Because I'm thinking, oh, this is the change I was looking for. Except just as I said, it was completely the opposite. And we went on, and he would start, asking for a deeper level of commitment, like, let's get married. And I kept saying, we haven't even had a good conversation. What are you talking about? Let's get married. How about let's have a communication? Let's have a discussion. Let's be honest about where we are. What do you need from me as a man? How about telling me what really, be vulnerable so that I could try to adjust and fix myself in my relationship with you. But that's like too difficult. I could never get there. No matter what I do, how hard I try, I could never get there. But I'll tell you in retrospect, I could never get there because he had other motives. Because while he was telling me about getting married, his foot was already out the door again. But this time, he was I think he sort of imagined that this time when he's leaving, he's going to now leave with what belongs to him, which is the life that we built and the couple of investments and that we have built. This time he's going with half of it, what he thinks now he's entitled to. The first time around, he wasn't that, committed to being entitled to anything. But for some reason, the second time around was he wanted his name now on documents. It wasn't good enough to say, well, this is going to be yours and that is going to be mine. Or no, now he wanted his name on property, his name on bank accounts, right? Because for some reason, I guess in his world, that means we're really committed. Except there was always a little ringing bell in the back of my head, because my focus was on coming to a soft place of trust, of love, of trustworthiness, of a real relationship, of commitment at a deep level. Because in my head, the foundation of the relationship has to be built on those things first before we can move forward to say, okay, permanently, this is it. But you see, we were on different side of the seesaw. He wanted this, I wanted that. He wanted that, I wanted this, right? So it really didn't come as much as a surprise, because the relationship never got better. If anything, it got more brazen, more rough, because he didn't have to disguise as much, because his agenda had to be, he was working on an agenda. And he was working on an agenda, and while he was working on it, it was supposed to be top secret. So I don't respond in a negative way that would throw him off, so to speak. So it didn't come as a surprise that a good friend of ours, who I have known through him, who is like a family member, calls and tells me how upset she is with me. And I said, what did I do? And she said, how come you didn't tell me you and Mr. go on your separate ways? And of course, I'm like, what are you talking about? He's still here. All his clothes is in the closet. What are you talking about? Look, his vehicle is right outside. Now, all I know is he has gone to New York to work, but he's still here. And she said, she sounded baffled. And I said, well, why are you asking? What are you talking about? And then she sent me the wedding invitation. Okay, now I know you're confused, right? You see, when he came back home, he got a divorce from the shiny object he married 4 years before, whatever. The reason why we broke up in the first place, he got a divorce. And I knew he got a divorce because one of the things he did was made sure I knew. He never came and told me, but he gave me the document in passing, file this. So there it was. I have to read whatever it is I needed to file. So I see it's a divorce decree. I never brought it up, and he never brought it up, but he knew he wanted me to see that he got a divorce. So that was it's okay now for me and you to try again because I took care of that mess. That was a mistake. Let's move forward. Let's move again. There we go. So I'm like, how is this possible? That this same thing could happen to me twice with the same asshole. How is this possible that you, June Senan, didn't learn your lesson the first time? So now I'm no longer angry with him. I am angry with me. I'm angry with me because once again, I didn't really do the fundamental work on myself that would allow me to discern BS from BS. That's my fault. Just as it is perhaps your fault that you choose to ignore what you're seeing, what you're feeling, what you're tasting. All your senses are on fire. All your senses are telling you something's off. But you refuse to pull that rug because you're attached to an outcome. And life is trying to tell you something. While you're busy making plans for that outcome, you're really ignoring the reality of where you're sitting. That was me. Except life doesn't stop because you're ignoring. What does it do though? It comes back around and it tries to tell you again. But this time, the lesson is a little harsher. And then you don't listen. So what do you think happens again? The lesson is repeated once more. And once again, it comes at you, but this time, it beats you over the head to the point that you're dizzy and you can't even function. And then when you finally wake up, you are far less capable of surviving the person that you have now become. Because at that point, you're bitter, you're vindictive, you're insane, you have lost all your dignity, you're on the mat, you don't know where to begin to rebuild. And you have lost time. You have lost focus. You left your dream stranded back there years ago. Because you are busy building an illusion of a life that didn't serve you then, and it ain't gonna serve you now. It's time, though, to consider at what point, how much is enough? Well, to end that story of me, that was enough. I became good at disconnecting real quick. So I disconnected real quick, packed up all his stuff, got rid of it, and left him, send him on his way. Even though him going on his way was still not good enough, was still not enough in his head. He constantly had to continue to call me, to chit-chat, wants to call me like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, yeah, but this is the same thing you used to do to me that I did not want done to me. Why would I do it to somebody else? Why would I give you that opportunity to be king of my castle all over again? No. So I had to come to the conclusion there has to be no strings attached. There has to be a clean cut. In spite of my personality that says I never really become enemies with people, but I have to know this is venom, this is poison to my system. This is utter poison to make sure I never heal. Because he still wants to be able to turn around and spend days whenever he's around this hemisphere. He still wants to be able to be in a comfort zone. But this story is not about him. This story is about you, me, you, Susan, Sandra, Karen. This story is about you. It's about you giving away your power on a silver platter to somebody that doesn't deserve it. And then you walk around in your life feeling that sense of rejection and betrayal and sadness and living this much of your potential. Because you have given up that power, not him. He took it. He took it. Yes, he took it. But you gave it. And that's where the key to the responsibility of taking your life back, of taking your pum-pum power back, that's where that comes in. By acknowledging that you gave it, he took it, and so the dynamic of the relationship flourished perfectly until you decide that enough is enough. See, that's the dynamic of the dysfunction. And until you stand in that position and say to yourself, I see now where I helped contribute. I see now that I became the glue, the building block to this dysfunctional bullshit. Until you can stand there clear-eyed and with no filters on, no more excuses, you can't get from where you are to where you want to go. That's what this work is about. It's about taking responsibility. And I go through my mess and I share because I happen to know that I'm not the only one. It's only when I started to share just a teeny little bit of where I was and what I went through that I realized, but wait a minute, I thought I was the only loser here until I started speaking to other women who put up with the same thing, who was giving up their power voluntarily. Nobody's beating them over the head to stay. Some of them in a better situation than most to leave. And they still stay stranded in the zone of make-believe that is going to get better. No, I'm here to tell you, it's not going to get better the second time around. It's not going to get better the third time around. It's not going to get better no matter how much you morph into that small, obedient version of yourself. Because he has his life to live. He has proved to you that he's not interested in figuring out a way to really compromise and make your life as beautiful and happy as you want it. So all you're doing is just stranded. You're wasting time, like I was. until I woke up to these truths that sometimes we need to, instead of making plans and building, we need to stop and listen with all our senses to what life is trying to tell us. Because if life is trying to tell you that, believe me, life has already set up a ramp for you to walk out on that will keep you safe, that will empower you, that will strengthen you, that will clean you up. All that scale that you carried around all these years that allowed you to disguise the real you, the beauty of the real you, all of that is going to be provided. But you have to take this first step. You have to say enough is enough. You have to take the baton and start walking out on that ramp and trust that the same universe that was trying to tell you will also provide you with whatever you need on that next leg of your journey, like I have. Ladies, guys, if you're listening, this story is about general dysfunction, right? And how we approach life. So even with guys who, you know, the similar dynamic, guys suffer too. So I want to talk to you for a split second. The lesson is the same. Sometimes you're in a situation, a position that life is trying to help you dislodge. Open your heart, open your eyes, get rid of the fear that have you hostage, keeps you stranded. And take your life to a new direction. Okay? I want to thank you. I want to thank you for giving me this privilege to share my journey of dysfunction. It may not be pretty, but it's so obvious that I put myself in a place that I had no business in being, just like you may be at this junction in your life. Okay? That's what I'm here for. That's what this coaching is all about. This is what taking back your power is all about. I want to help you in that transformation. I want to thank you for being here. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to connect, serve, and transform.